3:21. I'd like to welcome you all to the June meeting of the RSU 25 School Board. All please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you be kind enough to take that?
We have 100% attendance of board members for this evening.
All right. This is the time for public participation. If you would like to publicly participate, and you are not here, you may email for a public comment at rsu25.org. Or you can phone in for public comment at 307-8099. Now we will ask those of us who are in attendance now if anyone would like to publicly participate. All right. You all good? We're all good. All right. So if we get anything in, Jim, would you please let me know?
I will.
And if not, we will move on to adjustments to the agenda.
I do have 2 adjustments. If you'd be kind enough to add 2 names to L1B, nominations for special ed tech ones, Autumn Boutin, Boutin, and Savannah Daigle. Both of those packets were added into your meeting notes this afternoon, probably around 2 o'clock. So
That is after support person.
that's correct. Yeah, those are the support people.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve this time, one of May 10th and one of June 6th.
Well, I move that we approve the minutes of May 10th, 2022 and June 6th, 2022 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, and that is unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have communications and correspondence.
Yeah, we had a few communications this month. They were put in your packets and just touch base on them. A couple of them are fairly important. We will be having an audit of our summer food program. We received that letter in the mail. You have that in there. There's a communication for MSBA for local delegates to the MSBA Annual Delegate Assembly. I know that's one that everybody fights to get to be a part of. So just so you pay attention to that, so we make sure we get people nominated if you would like. Our calendar for the Hancock County Technical Center was approved, which is wonderful. I do have a problem with how they addressed it. They addressed it to the Hancock County Technical High School. That is not an accurate statement. And matter of fact, I'm being very public in saying that I'm not in favor of that because there's a group of people who would like to have that be a freestanding diploma issuing school, the CTEs in our state, and I do not believe that's the right thing. So I will be addressing the commissioner's office about that. Water testing. So you've heard us talking throughout the course of the year about the water testing program that was required through legislative action. Mr. Michio has been right on top of it, doing a good job of getting things taken care of. One problem, there's only one place you're allowed to send your samples, and they became overwhelmed. And so what the state did is they took the deadline from May 30th and moved it down to December 30th. So, and they said, stop sending us any samples till we get ahead of the backlog.
I didn't see that coming.
So we completed 2 schools, the middle school and the Miles Lane School. Both of those schools did have results where there was samples for 2 areas at the middle school. There was higher than the 5 parts per billion readings. So we immediately shut down those for any kind of service. Mr. Michio has gone and they found what they think was the issue. It was backflow valves were not functioning. So they've corrected that and they've taken samples and sent those in. What we do is if we find an area of concern, we shut it down, take it out of service, and then we work, we mitigate, we correct, retest. If it passes, then we put it back in surface. If it doesn't pass, we fix again. So the middle school, we've gone through that cycle. We have not got the results back from the follow-up test. You will find on the website, there is a section right on the front page that talks about water testing. And I have statutory obligations for notification. It's taken care of through email and through posting on the website. And all the information has been sent into the state. The Miles Lane School came up with areas in the kitchen, 3 spots in the kitchen and 2 actually in the art room, which is kind of interesting where it was. The rest of the samples were fine, just those 2. And the middle school had 10 samples. The Miles Lane had 30 samples taken because there's drinking fountains in every room. So we've shut down the art room water supply and also in the kitchen area. So Wayne we just got those results back at the end of last week. So Wayne is in the process of working with the plumbing company to figure out what's going on there. We will test again in the fall for the high school and for the Jewett school. And that's the process we're going to follow as we go along. So, but just so you're aware, the readings, and have we ever tested for lead before? Yes, absolutely. But we always use the federal level of 15 parts per billion, and we were always below that. Anytime that was above, we correct it and move on. Now the standard has been set at 5 parts per billion. So anything 5 parts per billion and above, you have to mitigate. So we are doing that. And Mr. Michaud is right on top of it. And we're communicating, and we will make sure that we have safe drinking water and safe water to cook with. We will make sure of that. So we will keep you apprised as we go along. That's what I have for you. There's a couple other letters, but you can read those.
Any questions for Jim? The feds have a level of safety on lead that we've always complied with.
Correct.
Who's making this new lower amount?
That was established by the Maine legislature, and not this past legislative session, but the previous one.
And what kind of scientific guidance did they follow? Or did they just try to make a nice we care type statement by cutting it by 1/3?
I don't know the background to that. I do know that it was brought forward as a bill with concerns, and it definitely carried the day through the legislature, so it's what we now have to follow.
Because, I mean, I personally don't feel as though we've ever put any of our students at risk. I mean, we're not Flint, Michigan or something.
No, hardly.
All right, there have been some people who have contacted me with concerns that somehow there's lead at our school. And I feel as though we've gone out of our way to make sure that we've always been in compliance.
Yep.
That this is perhaps a standard that may have had nice intentions and feelings behind it, but might not actually be based in any sort of anything.
I think that there is a precedent to say that it may have been reactive, because 2 sessions ago, that would actually put you right around the time that Flint would be in the news all the time.
Maybe. Yes, Heather.
Well, I was reading through the rest of the packet here, and it says that Mr. Boothby has completed 15 years of service as a superintendent. And so he's to be honored at an award ceremony. So that sounds good. So you
It's
didn't-
kind of like a soul survivor award.
Last man standing.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's coming up next week at the commissioners' conference.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 13 of those years have been right here.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, if you did a home test for lead, it's based on 15 parts
It
per
is.
billion. So if somebody's concerned, they probably have higher than what the school would have.
They very
It
well.
still would
might.
be okay.
Yeah. Particularly if they're living in a house as old as mine or older.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which there are a few.
One of the things that these tests are, these are dead draw testing. So that means the water system is dormant for a minimum of 8 hours. And we test the immediate draw coming off the tap.
So we're talking about maximum absorption into the water being tested
Yes, sir.
and minimum amount allowed.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. When we test these after a live draw, the numbers are very negligible. They're all down around the once part per billion, 2 parts per billion. So, so the rules of the testing have changed. It's a dead draw. And, you know, that's the reality. And quite honestly, is number one, you should never, you know, shouldn't be cooking with hot water, right? Because hot water is going to create more of a leaching through the system. So you always want to cook with cold water, and even in your home, you should let the water run for 15 to 30 seconds just to flush out the line to get water that hasn't been sedate sitting in your pipes.
Would have been easy if they just sent out a thing saying, please run your water for a few seconds before you use it.
We always do that.
But I
We
mean,
always flush
It
our.
solves most of the problems.
It means that when I cook spaghetti, I shouldn't be taking it straight out of my 1964 Sears water heater that I got.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a
maybe
very,
that
No more
explains
meetings
why
at your
I'm so
house.
weird.
I just replaced my water heater last year.
Yeah. We will stay on top of this, and, you know, if there's not potable water, there will be. We've already got plans, we'll bring in potable water, but so far, these 2 schools, yeah, we've picked up on a couple of areas, and we fixed them, and part of it's because of, you know, how it's been previously plumbed, and the backflow valves and stuff. So, okay,
They're all-
but all that information is on the website, and I would encourage people, take a look at that, and you'll see that though we may have readings that are above 5, we do have one reading that's 17. Okay, but all the other ones are 1 and 2s and 3s.
They do have inline filters. that
Yes, oh,
don't
yeah.
have lead.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, there are ways, you don't have to repipe everything.
No, there are ways to mitigate it,
Yeah.
but other times it may be prudent to repipe.
And it might, yeah.
It's gonna be a case-by-case situation.
Or if we've got a fixture that's identified.
Yeah, and a lot of it is fixtures, and we've had a program where we've been replacing like the drinking fountains with newer drinking fountains, because if you think of this building, when it was built in 1962, 63, those older drinking fountains would
Single
have,
best tasting water ever.
would have had some level of lead in the solder, you know, where they sweat the pipes. But if you look around, we've replaced all of our drinking fountains. So, you know, is it possible that we may still have some older fixtures? Absolutely. If we catch it, shut it down, change it out, retest and move on. Okay. But it'll be more about that as we move along. But right now, we're kind of at a standstill for the summer because we can't send any more tested. As soon as that window opens up again, we'll be right back at it. Okay. And we're not alone. They're all over the state of Maine, they're finding.
Bangor was hit real hard.
Yeah.
And most of the schools are old.
Right, same idea.
They're almost like 1919, Snow, Mary Snow, they're all old, so.
And they put in some inline filtration systems. That's how they handle it.
Yeah.
So that's what I have for communications.
All right, do have a report. You'd like to?
I do have a report. I sent it to you. So I had to start off, I couldn't resist, but what an exciting baseball game. A chance to watch. I'm glad I wasn't the coach because I would have been eating myself alive with walks and, you know, leaving 15 runners on base, but good for them. And that's exciting. That's their first state championship ever for the school. So that's pretty special.
And with a 1-0 victory, how exciting.
Yeah.
We had back-to-back base hits, a base hit, stolen base hit, that's how we scored our 1 run. And they left a lot of people on base. Their coach must be going,
Great
like,
stadium,
they
Yeah.
had.
Dave Roberts. So,
It was
It
tremendous.
was a
so,
nerve wracking. It would have been nice to know the outcome before you went to it, so you would have been so nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So that was fun. We also had 3 individuals on our track team win state championships, which was great. We sent 6 kids to the New England Outdoor Track Championships, which has been fantastic. It's been a great spring, and if you think about that, the robotics program and their performances this year, it's been a very exciting spring for the school, so.
We got a lot of talented kids.
Oh, there's great kiddos here, and they're taking advantage of the opportunities, which is fun to see. That's exciting to see. So that's good stuff. And it's kind of interesting observation if you think about it. The only game we lost was to Ellsworth, and they won the state championship in Class B, and we lost to them 1-0.
I think it was a
Only 2
2-0.
northern Maine teams brought home the gold.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Even though Searsport.
Yeah, just across the river, there's Searsport that
And
won
then
it.
Softball.
Gardner.
Yeah, so pretty exciting. And our kids are gonna play, those kids who play summer ball with Legion. It's comprised of the Ellsworth and Bucks 14,
Ooh,
as well as GSA and
it's still getting
WDI,
no.
the Acadians, yeah.
Wow.
And Josh is dope.
And Josh
And
Jackson
Josh,
is the coach, yeah. And he's quite happy because his top 6 pitchers are the 2 starting pitchers from Bucksport and the 4 kids from Ellsworth. So I told him, no pressure, you better have a good summer.
Coaches do.
Yeah, we'll find out. He may stop coaching because I don't think it's gonna get any better. after this.
Right. All down there.
Quit when you-
And he's been on every top radio show
Yeah.
in the state of Maine, so that's good. So a couple of other things I want to point out. This is a very difficult year, and I think you folks are all aware of that. It was in many ways more challenging than the previous year. And this summer, I know I've talked to the administrators already, we're already working to plan and get in a position so we're ready to go day one to support our kiddos the best we can. So that's key. What else do we have that I want to point out? We already talked about calendar. Already talked about the water, testing. You have a couple of agenda articles coming up that you're gonna deal with. So other than that, I'll answer any other questions.
Do we have any questions for Jen? Thank you.
Perfect.
Board's chair report. So this has been a rather interesting year. We've gone through and had a full solid year of educational instruction in class. It's been very nice, but it hasn't been all that 100% smooth. We've had a whole lot of dealings with masks, scares about number of students, staff. COVID, we've fortunately been able to brace ourselves all the way through the year, maintain steady, consistent school year, which has been, to me, a major, major accomplishment. There are things that we really need to work on, perhaps over the summer, about what we're going to do for next year. Getting our direction of instruction back to the level that it used to be, getting our discipline back to the level that it used to be. I think that's something we can all work constructively on towards achieving those goals that we had prior. And I think we're all going to be better off by doing that. Jim has kind of stolen my thunder on all of the wonderful accomplishments.
I'm sorry.
that we've had. So I don't have this wonderful enlightening thing to give you on the other side of that bit, but it is work that we do need to do. One thing about this whole COVID foolishness was Jim got it. And because Jim got it, I got to participate in the graduation ceremony,
Yes, you did.
which was spectacular. Those were some of the best graduation ceremonies I've ever seen. It was wonderful.
Everything was perfect.
Everything
The sound system,
worked
the weather.
right. The weather was good. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. The only problem was half of the kids didn't know me from Adam. But that's okay. They don't need to know me. The only one I felt bad about was there was a kid that I've helped all the way through soccer ever since he was a little kid, and he didn't shake my hand. I just felt snot. But everybody else, it was great. It was great fun to be up there. And despite the fact that I'm sure you were absolutely miserable, thank you for getting COVID. Because that was wonderful. for
So we
me.
tried to do.
And that is the board chair's report. Any questions? Under committee reports, we've got curriculum.
Well, I can make this really quick. We did not meet, but we are going to meet next month.
Finance, you all got to experience, so I won't bother to bore you with that. Policy,
Did not meet,
all right.
but we will need to meet in July.
Yeah, that's fine.
Put it on my calendar.
You will. Facility,
Yeah, we met a couple of times. Wayne updated us on the water testing, like we've just heard about. And we met with the BIMS people and discussed projects throughout the system. And came back with a figure and had some good discussion about it. And just couldn't get it to a point where we felt comfortable bringing a number to the board.
sounds good. And I really do feel that it's good that you're keeping it at your committee level until you get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any questions for facilities?
If I can kind of jump in and add on to that, so folks are aware. Wayne, Michu and I did go up and meet with BIMS yesterday. We happened to meet with their board of directors, which was not what we intended, but it was fine. Extremely productive conversations, very clarifying conversations. I shared with them the feedback that I received from the facilities committee, and I applaud the facilities committee. It was a wonderful dialogue, probably as interactive as I've ever seen. And I think it's fantastic because that's the kind of feedback we need from these subcommittees. If you don't know this gentleman, Vincent Cristiano, Cristiano, is the representative from Verona Island on the facilities committee, and what, you stepped right into the fire. Right off the bat, we're talking these things, but wonderful experience he brings to the board. He's retired Navy, and so he has a wealth of experience and some other backgrounds, but we're looking at the original figure they presented to us was like slightly over 10 million. We asked them to refine that more, came in at $7.78 million. What they've identified is legitimate. I mean, there's no argument about that. But if you look at that in terms of a 15-year note, either a lease purchase agreement, or if you went to a bond, you're looking at an impact of anywhere from 5.3% to 6.18% to the towns. And that's over the FY23 assessment, that kind of an increase. Let alone what we'd be dealing with collective bargaining agreements and additional costs for the future years. So the takeaway that I had from the facilities committee was we don't disagree, these are important, but we need to prioritize it even more. So Wayne and I went up and had that conversation with them. And like I said, it's very, very productive, very, I don't know how to characterize it. It was direct conversation. And I think what we're looking at is they're going to present us with a proposal somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.5, 4.45. We have $1.35 million of ESSER money for the Jewett School. I've asked them to isolate that and let's get ready to move and go forward on that. We have that money. Let's order equipment. Let's get ready to go, get mobilized. So next summer, we're going after it. And then I've estimated by the end of FY23, we should have over to $1.9 million in reserve. I heard very clearly from the Facilities Committee not to exhaust all of our capital reserve on these projects because we have other things down the road. We still have roofs to deal with. We have other projects out there. So,
I do not enter signs.
what's that?
I do not enter signs.
Yes, do not.
Over here.
So we're talking, I'm using a number of using $1 million of that. And so that means we would look at about a $2.1 million item that needs to be funded. It's nice having Mr. Rotella on the Facilities Committee, who's a former banker, so we can do amortizations really quickly. You're looking that an annual payment of about $186,000. Again, these are all rough numbers, don't hold me to them, but just so you have an understanding. We will be retiring debt over the next 2 years that we're already raising $76,000 for. So of new money, we would need to raise approximately, what was that, $109,000. And so now we're talking impact to our towns of 1.18%, 1.3%. Far more palatable, and it goes after the highest need. This report, and I suggest that we want to have a consideration of a Facilities Committee and make sure the public's aware of it so people have an opportunity to come and ask questions, was very thorough. We have significant needs at the Miles Lane School. That school building now is going on 33 years old. Those boilers are antiquated and failing quickly. And
Yeah,
We had a field trip.
We had, yeah.
Hey,
yeah, they're scary.
that really
Something made the
brought
gear up
it to
to warm.
There's 96 fittings, and if it blows and they've blown, water shoots out at 200 degrees.
Yeah.
Which is dangerous.
That sounds
Yeah.
bad.
And then it can even come into the hallways and stuff because there's no slope. He's got bags down to direct the water.
Heather has a question.
Yeah.
Are there any Department of Energy grants that we could possibly partake in, that we could? Hi.
so as we go through, first let me finish up. Their report, and I can share this is all public, it's not a problem, has identified areas where we need to improve burner efficiencies, we need to improve our air circulation, HVAC. But the Miles Lane School needs a lot of attention with the boilers, HVAC, those things. Then you come to the high school, these boilers are living on borrowed time. Okay. And so we have to attend to that. We know we have a deficit. We don't have any fresh air exchange in the cafeteria other than opening a window. So that's a passive air exchange. We should have some active. And we also know our air handlers in the gymnasium are not functioning properly and those need to be rebuilt. Okay, so there's a number, we can go right through there and the projects. We know we have the height of the middle schools, exterior, the siding, that's an issue. That's about $1 million project. And there's some valving and things, stuff that needs to be done up there. So the work that they've identified is legitimate. We've got to have a plan. But in my opinion, and what I took away from the finance committee, it can't be all at once because we're going to overwhelm our communities and that's just not right. But we do need to communicate with the communities. I've had conversations with the town manager. I need to reach out to the selectmen of the other towns now that I have more information. I feel comfortable doing that, but here's a challenge. The challenge is to get materials on site in order to have a construction season next summer. You got to start ordering now. To come up with this kind of money, you folks have the authority under the statute we talked about in the agreement we have. You can do that through a lease purchase. But to access our capital reserve money, you have to go out to the voters to get the capital reserve money. Okay, so we're gonna have to come up with a timeline. That's one of the next things I'd be working with the BIMS folks, coming up with a timeline to present to Facilities Committee, and then ultimately present to the board as a full presentation.
So this has to go for an actual vote, so that would be November.
No, sir. I was.
So I misunderstood.
I would suggest it would be November if we wanted to wait that long. There's nothing in the world that prevents you from calling a special election.
Okay.
Okay, but again, let me get my ducks in a row and all that information, because I believe it's a 60-day posting. It's at least 45, but I think it's 60. Heather?
The capital reserve fund, you're talking about asking the voters if we can access that. So are you asking if we could have like access to the entirety of it or portions of it as we get moving?
Right. The portions.
So more special elections for that, or just one special election to give voters the chance to say that they want us to be able to access it?
Just one.
Just one,
Just one.
okay.
And this election, I'm assuming is like the town runs the election, not like we do for budget validation.
No, it would be in the community vote. Yes or no, do I support?
We haven't gone through this.
We've never done it before.
So that's why I'm asking.
So, but again, I am in communication with Drummond and Woodson. Bill Stockmeyer is a lawyer that does finance, and so I'll be working with him to get that information out to you. What I wanted to do is I want to share this information publicly so we can start the communication line. This report was delivered to us, it was about 3 weeks ago, and we're just at the point of trying to digest it and get that communication going, identify priorities. From the contractor's perspective, time is of the essence, because to buy a boiler, you don't go get those at Home Depot. Okay, these are very large industrial boilers that have to be ordered and constructed and delivered on site, and then you have to have all the accoutrements that go along with that, the burners, all the fittings and
Piping and engineering.
piping and engineering and everything. So there's a lot to this.
How quickly are we talking about getting the special election up and going? How quickly, like next month, what's our time?
All of this, Heather, is I have to check the law, and again, I'm sharing more information than I've totally been educated on.
It's
But
okay,
it's a minimum of 45 days, but I believe it's a 60-day notice
I
from
see.
the time the board would call the election and it gets posted, and then before it can actually happen.
So about 60 days, so that's puts us into what, August, so that we can start in August or by September?
Well, I would suspect it's probably going to be September before you can have a special election.
I
Okay,
see.
and then,
Because wouldn't we need to take board action to make that happen? So that
That's
would be
correct.
a July meeting.
that's correct, yeah. So,
Unless we have a special.
so there's a lot that's going to come at us really, really quickly. I can tell you that I spent a lot of time on this, and this is going to be a big part of my summer that I'm going to be focused on putting us in the position. But as people need to be aware that, we have hundreds of thousands of square feet of building. They're aging. We've done a good job of maintaining them, but we've got to keep on top of that. And we've got to come up with a concise plan, because if you defer maintenance too long, it becomes a crisis. And that's what we've been trying to avoid. Okay. Unfortunately, the boilers and the HVAC have caught us off guard. Okay. And that was brought to the front because of COVID. Right, because we did our research and we really wanted to find out what we were getting for fresh air exchange. So, no, and we have some areas of deficit, so. All right, so good news is we got one project at the Jewett. We've got the bulk of the funding that's already in federal money. We're fine. That gets going, that moves forward. I know Mr. Foster and I had a conversation, and I thought he asked a very, very good question about investing in that building. Is that a building we're going to be in for foreseeable future? And my feeling is definitely yes. We've done the cohort survival study. We know our grades, sizes. We were estimating somewhere between 70 and 75. Our last year's kindergarten was, Christina, 90?
86, yeah.
86. We're estimating we'll probably be right around 75 kindergarten for next year. We don't have space without that building to run a pre-K and a K program. So that building is going to be in play for definitely worthy of the investment.
Side note, I mentioned that they've started to work on that middle field.
Yes,
Middle
middle school field, as
field.
They have started working on that, which is good. We had trouble finding contractors. We went out to bid. We got no bids. We actually had to make phone calls to contractors, and we were able to identify contractors who do the work for us within the framework of the cost. We met today with the engineers. They've already started the perimeter, which was cutting down all the growth on the drainage. They've already started that. They're digging the perimeter drainage ditch right now. They've got a number of drains. That's a lot of area that they're gonna go. Believe it or not, finding drainage pipe is extremely difficult.
No.
And so we've located 4-inch pipe in Kennebunk. We have to go get it.
That's okay, we have,
Could
we
be
know where it
worse.
is.
Could be worse.
It could be worse,
Yeah.
right? They won't deliver it here. So we actually have to send somebody down to pick it up to get the pipe.
Is that
Better
the
than nothing.
4-inch corrugated perforated vinyl?
No.
Oh.
It's 4-inch schedule 40.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little different.
So
So
how many of those can we fit in a bus?
quite a few. So,
Absolutely.
you know. We
think
can
you
get
still
on a
have some
pickup
of us
truck with
left.
broken bunnies.
How many can I get in the van?
Yeah, in the van.
Does it go come up like this?
I could probably strap 5 or 6 on the roof of the Sonata. No problem.
We did meet with the engineer on site today. He's very pleased with the work that's progressed to date, but did agree that, you know, because part of their plan called for 4-inch flowing into 6-inch. We cannot get the 6-inch pipe. So they did approve a change of going to all 4-inch. It will be fine.
So those other colored flags won't be a change in,
No,
well, I lied.
They're all
to
the
you.
same.
I lied to you today.
well, you gave right information. You
I didn't know they
You
couldn't
didn't
get
have
this.
all the information.
didn't have all the information, so. It's really dynamic of what's going on out there. And talking to the engineers, they've had jobs that they've engineered that they can't get anybody to do the work. Contractors just are not taking on these jobs, or they can't get what they need for materials
Or help.
or help, and help's a big part of it, so. Move forward as we look at these big construction projects that we're looking at, that's gonna be one of the big challenges. I mean, obviously, always identifying the priorities, getting the funding for the priorities, but getting the companies to do the work is gonna be critical, so. And the more we wait, the more expensive it gets. So. So that's an overview of where we are. I know that's more than I typically would report out, but we've done a lot of work in the last month, and Facilities Committee is earning its money. We don't pay
I
them.
was gonna say,
I was gonna say, do we get extra?
money?
No, you don't get paid for it, but you're earning what you're not getting paid for. So,
But it's fun.
Credit.
Attaboy.
so I'll be leaning on them quite a bit.
Any other questions or comments about facilities before we move to HC?
Any of the Facilities Committee members have any comments? You got 4 people in the room.
Just tough decisions to have to make, when you know you need everything, but it's so costly.
Had a little field trip yesterday that we took with Wayne, was really eye opening. I mean, oh.
If you get a chance to go see.
It brought us
Boiler Rooms,
reality, especially the up above the mile thing. Holy cow.
Have you been?
I mean, could we do some
You know,
public media with it or? is that-
Oh, yeah, I really
You don't want
suggested
to-
facilities meeting that we really
Yeah.
invite key public members to, everybody.
I mean, it does invite a little bit of criticism on why we would be doing things, but also it would give people a chance to see where their money is going to work.
Oh, absolutely. It's their buildings. We're
Yeah.
caretakers. It's not,
Right.
they're not our buildings, it's public buildings. So, But
I-
But one of the key things that, and you listen to the construction company, you listen to them, they're always saying, you know, you're gonna invest, you know, 4.5 million, 10 million, whatever the number is. It's a lot cheaper than to try to rebuild this school.
Oh,
If you try to rebuild the school, you're looking at an $80 million project at minimum.
Yeah.
So,
Even video of like, you know, them working on the field or video of the new boilers arriving. Or anything like that would, you know, for people who would be interested, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would.
You
And
could
there's a
suggest
ton
that
of
to
Facebook
Aspire.
community
They could
groups
maybe
that,
tie
you
that
know,
in.
would
I know,
help
wouldn't
to
that be
kind of
great?
get that out.
That would
in
be
front
really
of
nice
more
if
people.
Aspire did a, you know,
I like the
did
thought.
a vignette.
Aspire could kind of follow that, and then it could be a two-for. You could educate the public, but also.
Well, no, I mean, we could even have some students that go there because we have, well, no, I mean, like, we have, these are people's
Just tell
parents.
Jen, she'll do it.
Well,
I
the-
was thinking that as you were talking.
I mean, I just feel like it's all great job stuff.
It
Right,
really
we
is.
talked about how just everything going on in this district, there are cool things to highlight and
Yeah.
career opportunities as they're happening.
You know, the interesting, I mean, these are our parents, right? These are our parents, our kids' parents, and these are the things that they do locally that make the community run seamless. It seems like, oh, it's no big deal. I went to Hannaford and I got some groceries, but somebody we know, somebody we see, somebody's parent brought those groceries in, you know, put them on the shelf for us. It's important to see the people who live and work here. Yeah.
There is a plan to tour Hanford, so.
I don't know.
Thank you for all that discussion. We got HCTC.
Well, we did meet, we met back in May, and it was before, because of the rescheduling, had been a report out. So some of the information may not be totally accurate. At that time, we had a enrollment of 309 people. Don't know if it's about the same or not, it changed a little bit. And 50 of those supposedly from Bucksport. 28 of them are in our welding program that we satellite here. So those are good numbers, very good numbers. They're in the process, and hopefully they fill them, 3 positions: cybersecurity, law enforcement, and culinary arts, all new openings. They're finalizing, trying to do a summer camp for middle school for 1 week in July. They didn't have the details at that point. And Amy did some middle school visits the last week of May and the first 2 weeks of June. Todd's not here, so I can't ask him if that happened or not, but. So like I said, it was back in May, so some of it might have changed a little bit, but that's all I have.
Do you have any questions for Scott? HCTC. Okay. Old business, we've got 9. New business, we have resignations and retirements.
Yes, you have some resignations. I reported this out in my report. Laura Mercier, kindergarten teacher. Matt Smith, BMS teacher, grade 5. Laura Lee McKnight, Miles Lane teacher. Catherine Eberhardt, Jewett special education teacher, and William Eberhardt, Foxport High School special education teacher. Co-curricular coaches, Mr. Tozier is stepping down from BHS assistant football coach. Sean Kennison stepping down from BHS varsity girls basketball. Rich Rotella stepping down from BMS girls soccer team A. Cecil Plant stepping down from BMS boys soccer B team. Caitlin Hawes stepping down from BMS cross country. Sarah Jackson stepping down from BMS cheering.
So we're gonna have any coaches at the middle school?
Mr. Frazier will be doing soccer. Not
Possibly boys.
unusual, not unusual. You have kiddos moving through and moving out.
Yeah.
Parents who have coached and.
Yeah, I recognize some of the parents line up with 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dale's been there a long time. Dale Tozer.
Dale's been between the middle school and high school teams. It's been a long time, but he,
It's not the 8 meeting.
Well.
is it?
no, it's the buying the new store,
Oh, Brewer.
opening a new
I
store in
gotcha.
Brewer, and him trying to manage four separate locations right now. He's, I think he's guessing that.
Wow. Well, I move that we accept the resignation / retirements with regret as a block.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
I do want to point out, just, not that I want to go off on a tangent here, but just one of these teachers, one of our younger teachers, did resign the position, not because she wanted to leave, but because she couldn't find housing. And had to move back in with her parents, and they live in Lewiston. So that's a reality we're facing, and I've been saying it for years, and I'm going to keep saying it. 2 biggest things we got to deal with is high quality daycare and affordable housing.
What you're suggesting is we buy the Spring Fountain Hotel.
Well, somebody's already looking at purchasing that,
So
so,
where did you live before?
but she lived in Bangor and had some roommates. in Bangor, and roommates moved on with their lives. She had nowhere to go. And she did try to secure housing, but was not able to.
Well, I have thought for years that we need like a subdivision, like I've got 25 acres, if I had the money, you know, to put.
Got money? You
Yeah.
got more money than John.
Well, the grand
Tommy's
scheme
pretty expensive.
in the town, I mean, there was this great idea of developing up by the bark dump and all that. It's supposed to be housing there and everything, this big grand scheme. It's
But
complete.
the key is you gotta get people who are willing to invest.
Yeah.
And you gotta have a plan of how that investment is gonna work. You gotta work, the community, the economic development, all has to work together to support the infrastructure and, but housing, affordable housing. I'm not saying Section 8 housing or
Right.
subsidized housing, but affordable housing for folks starting out, it's not easy. It's very difficult, so. And it's not
Somebody who
just,
just escaped that system, I can say it's unreasonable.
Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult. Before I purchased my home, it took me about a year and a half looking for a good rental that, you know, actually had working appliances and decent plumbing. It was awful. It's really tough out there right
so didn't want to get off on a tangent, but I just wanted you to be aware that
That's gonna be hard bringing in teachers. Is it not?
that is very hard to bring in kids.
Why they live outside?
That's why a
Sometimes
lot
we
of our
lose them.
teachers commute and why we lose them. So.
So have we talked to the facilities committee about building?
Well, in a couple of years, we're gonna have a couple of used boilers that we can probably,
When did you say we might outgrow the Jewett building?
might outgrow it.
It'll have great air
Still has
Yeah,
the same
at that
smell.
time.
Still has the same smell.
yeah,
No, they'll be secondary.
yeah. It's interesting. I know, I read an article in the paper, there's a developer over in Ellsworth that wants to develop an apartment complex of 140 units. You know, that's what you're gonna need in this area.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a
I
lot
don't
of.
know, a bunch of spec houses,
Backwards.
little Fraserville.
no pressure. Would you mind that, Kate? They all go down.
Oh,
Oh, it's cool. Instead of
Kate
Kate
behind Sean. Have to move Sean out, man. Well, he's got dibs on my place. He's already got to figure when I'm gone. This is what he's gonna do. I'm going, wait a minute.
Maybe I'll talk to Sean.
Yeah, I'm saying.
I just wanted to hear that.
Okay, well, sorry about that, but it's just something I thought it's important for you to
It's
understand.
sad though.
Yeah.
We're losing good people.
We're losing good people because of, you know, securing housing.
So did she get a job in Lewiston?
As of yet, I don't know.
She's applying.
Yeah, I know she was applying and I told her I'd be happy to support.
Yeah, yeah. Great teacher.
Okay,
All right, we've got nominations.
the good news is we do have some nominations. Teachers, Madison Cormier for middle school physical education, Susan Asterio for BMS special education. Support personnel, I have the two that we added, Autumn Booton, special ed tech 1, Savannah Daigle, special ed tech 1 as well, along with Aaron Boyle, Miles Lane School Administrative Assistant, Kelly Warren, food service, and she's the lady who's working for the senior center. And we've already got those two. Coaches, BMS Student Council, Allison Braley and Donna Short will share that. Musical director, Robert Barrios, yearbook, Miss Tarian. She can do that while she's doing the videos.
Yeah.
I guess
Civil-
if you don't resign, you just.
You've been voluntold. Civil rights team, Shonda Cody, chess club, Melissa Sutforth, math team, Justina Tippin, drama director, Olivia West, and assistant drama, Arthur Morrison. At BHS, nomination of Jacob Donnell for JV assistant boys soccer. Jacob is an alumni. And what's
Is
that?
he going to Hudson?
Yes, well,
He's working, you know, he's working for a cable company
he's working as a, yeah.
Okay.
and
And Adrian Stone as a BHS volunteer. Adrian used to teach physical education for us.
He was my middle school phys ed teacher.
he didn't want to come back.
Played football at UMaine and is now working in EMS.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Coach Carson.
Cool.
Good person.
Mhm.
Excellent
My
person.
kids love
Do we have any questions for Jim regarding these nominations? I would look for a motion.
I move that we accept these nominations as a block.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Excellent. That is unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have board consideration of BHS science trip to Boston on September 28th, 29th, and 30th.
In your packet, you saw a planning document, policy IJOA. And Jen is going to speak to us in representing the science teacher. So not only does she do Aspire, but she does trip planning and
Well, I'm helping, Aspire will be partially paying for this trip, so I guess I was nominated to answer questions for you, so I have a stack of papers in case you have questions about their trip. So any of you that have, are pre-COVID days, you know that it's not uncommon for the high school to take students out of state. This is a trip being organized by Katie Hunter and Denise Smith and an unnamed male chaperone.
player to be named later.
Yeah, to be named later.
Might be Aaron Lewis.
Yeah.
And they have a great lineup. So you do have an itinerary or an agenda in the packet. If not, I can just run down through. They are,
Yeah, if you would run down through, just in case we've got somebody watching.
sure. So they organize a science club. This was open to any students who wanted to join. They have 13 students and 3 chaperones. So at this point, they will be able to use vans since that maxes out 2 vans. They're going to do some fundraising over the summer. But they're putting in a request for assistance with housing and food. They're estimating about $1,200 needed for food and $2,655 for housing. The rough agenda includes the Fenway Park does a STEM day on site that students can attend, so they were going to attend that, and then a game is included with that. The Museum of Science, the aquarium, the 2 colleges chosen by students, MCPHS and Mass Art. They are looking into inviting professionals to a meal so they can incorporate a career talk or so. And the first step was to secure housing deposit and Red Sox tickets, and then they'll keep working on fundraising as they go. They have students from last year that are willing to do tours at the School of Pharmacology as part of that school they selected. And then I have a fair number of details here if you have questions about the housing. They're looking to stay at a hostel, which is different than what they've done before, but it's been researched, and I do have information here on the breakdown of the cost, what facilities are available. They have access to a kitchen. They're all using sort of like one wing, I guess you could describe it, of the hostel. So they're all together, but they're separate from other folks. Anyone have questions?
Yes. What's the Red Sox game about?
that's part of the
Yeah.
STEM program,
Okay, so what's that mean? I mean,
science, technology,
so
engineering,
what
math.
does it have to do? with-
So what's gonna happen is actually the Fenway group sponsors this, and the kids go to Fenway Park,
Okay.
and they work with scientists, engineers.
At the park?
Yeah,
at the park.
Going to a game or?
I
And
would,
then
there's a game
you
after.
do get a game.
Right.
They bring,
Yeah, and they
I went a
figure
couple
out-
years ago to one of them, and they set up event all along the corridors where you
Yep.
walk around. They'll have exhibits and speakers. There's usually something that happens out on the field, like a speaker
Oh,
comes.
okay.
So it's a full academic, engage.
It's not just going to the
engaging.
game,
No.
it's all directed towards what they're doing.
Yeah, and
Okay.
actually what ends up happening is you go to STEM day and you end up with incredibly cheap tickets.
Yeah.
You get to stay for a game.
Yep.
So.
Who are they playing anyway?
And
Wanna
the
be on
fans
Mayo
will
Hall?
be able
Let's
to-
sit down with the good
I
people.
think 1 minute, that's true.
I think we have a volunteer. I'm all
Sure, I
set.
saw
I'm all set.
A couple.
I'd go for the stem day and stay for the game.
Other questions?
Any other questions?
So what part of their plan is they really did a good job researching all these different lodgings and everything. And so what the idea is, they're gonna take vans down to Portland, jump on Amtrak, and take the train into
Yeah.
the city.
Oh,
That's a
cool.
good idea. Then after that, it's walk. And
I was just thinking if we had to drive, it wouldn't be.
No, I was happy for that, because last time they took one of our vans down, I got a parking ticket.
Yeah. That's right.
Did you
Remember
get out
that?
there?
Yeah.
Did you say, do you know who I am?
It wasn't just a ticket.
No, they got towed.
Yeah, I got told. Oh, yeah, that was
Oh, my
exciting.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would it be any cheaper for them to catch the Downeaster in Freeport as opposed to Portland?
They've done the research, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was trying to remember if it was, that, I didn't remember seeing that part, but I know they are. I just couldn't remember if it was Brunswick or,
I'm not sure if it's
Portland.
Brunswick or
yeah,
Portland,
but, yeah.
but I thought it was a great idea, because
Well, save you.
it saves me a ticket. But it's also another exposure for the kids to understand that, okay, there is mass transit out there. How do you use that? and how to
There's
access
other
it?
ways to get to Boston.
So it's fun going on that type of trip with the kids when you leave the state. You've got some kids who've never left the state. Or you go on some type of transportation that they've never been on before. Yeah, we did our first world trip for robotics, and there were a lot of kids who had really kind of never left New England. You know, we got to St. Louis, and there's this train that takes you from the airport into the city. And when we got on the train at the airport, we were the only people in our car. And so the kids were all monkeying around and having a good time. And then we stopped at a stop that was outside of the city, which happened to be very black neighborhood. And the car filled instantly. And our students who really hadn't experienced that before were kind of shocked. And it was kind of fun. It wasn't a negative experience. It was a very positive experience, seeing that, this is how people live outside of Bucksport. This is how this really works.
Yeah.
And I fully expect that when you guys get to go on that trip and you get on that train going to Boston, and you get the wide group of people who hop onto that train to go to work or whatever they're doing, they're not all tourists. They're the people who live there. And there's a wide group of people that you've never seen or experienced before, and you get that exposure, and that means a lot to our students. So that's much better than just taking a bus into town and then coming back and not really experiencing the city.
And to clarify the Aspire piece, the school will handle all the costs additionally, then part of it will be billed out to the Aspire allocation for the high school, but they don't want to use a large chunk of the high school's funds for the year for a single outing. So they're committed to the fundraising piece for that. Yeah, and from our perspective, it's all those things, helping them be ready to see what it could look like, getting on the college campus, getting to see all these careers and experiences out there in the world. So I'm happy to do that piece. It'll go through, that request will end up coming through the high school's NELMAC team to see how much will get used from that fund for next year.
Any other questions? I would look for a motion.
Well, I move that we approve the VHS science trip to Boston.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much, Jen.
Thank you.
Next, we have board computation and declaration of the fiscal year 2023 budget validation results.
I'm very happy to say that the budget passed by a 3-1 margin in all communities, so that's outstanding for the total of 729 in the affirmative, 175 opposed. We also had question 2, which was in regard to continuation of the validation referendum. That too passed by about the same margin, 711 to the affirmative, 198 to the negative. So I would entertain a motion that would declare that the budget was passed by the voters and that the continuation of the validation referendum also passed.
Well, so moved. Because that's a mouthful.
I'm sorry.
We have a so moved. All those for a second?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I did.
That is unanimous. It was an up and a down, so I just had to make sure you had changed them out. All right, that is unanimous.
Okay, I have to do.
Now
some-
we have to do some signatures.
Yeah, and I gotta do some recording. Everybody is physically present.
And this looks like one that we've, done up nice, pen, so don't screw it up.
Please. And there are 8 lines underneath the date.
What'd you do?
Please sign, pass that around.
All right. This is the always good pen, right? That's why you got these nice pens. If you don't have one, we will get you one. All right.
Gotta be in blue.
Just thought you last. Last.
I'll see what I can do. I'll turn it over.
Just don't sign where I'm supposed to sign.
Oh, shoot, man, I'm a teacher, but
Someone did that on a warrant.
Yeah, no.
I didn't do that.
Here's the Emmys appointment.
Huh?
Great.
Your name is there, so I'm.
I know. I almost wanted to sign that first to prevent it. So, but I figured that was not in proper form.
Sure.
All right.
You're all legal?
They're all legal and handing in the Sue right now, so I don't lose them.
There we go.
Thank you.
Good call.
All right.
Next, we have the overview of ESEA fiscal year 2023 grant application.
Miss Ellis, if you mind. Monty, as your first official duty as Director of Curriculum.
My first,
What's that acronym mean?
every student succeeds in educational act.
What is it?
Every student succeeds in educational act.
Oh,
So in my first curriculum report that I did for you, I did do an grant application overview for you on the first page, just to kind of outline what we've traditionally done for the different project lines and what is the anticipation for the upcoming grant application. Grant application is open right now for me to enter information, but it cannot be submitted until July 15th. And it's due by August 1st. So it can be submitted then, have to have it submitted by August 1st. We'll be all set. I'll meet that deadline for sure. Title I and Title IV of those particular lines are used for intervention support. And so historically, what we've been using them for at Jewett supports an EdTech 3 for math and ELA intervention support services and technology subscriptions, such as Lexia, which is a reading intervention subscription, and IXL, which is a math intervention subscription. At Miles Lane School, we have a reading recovery teacher, Bonnie Simcoe, that is funded out of this particular project. We have 3 ed techs for intervention support. an ELA and teacher for intervention support, and then also those technology subscriptions. So we lump those technology subscriptions all together, but they're divided amongst the 3 grants for each of the schools, Bucksport Middle School being the third one. At BMS, we have an ELA instructional coach that's funded out of this particular line, and that's Grace Patterson. We have an ELA Ed Tech 3 and a Math Ed Tech 3, along with those technology subscriptions. Title II is for training, and
Excuse me.
so, yes.
How many positions total?
Oh, let's see, I haven't counted them. So we have 3, 4, so we have 6 ed tech positions that are funded out of those lines. And then as far as teaching positions, we have 1, 3.
So you're speaking 9 positions fully paid through that grant?
Yes,
And that's an annual grant we receive.
every year.
And the funding for that is based on our free and reduced population count. So the higher your count, the more federal monies you receive.
That's where.
It really does allow us to provide a wonderful intervention services for our students at all 3 of those levels. Great question. I hadn't counted them, so that's great. Under Title II for training purposes, we do fund part of our eye observation project, which is our teacher evaluation system that we use, teacher and administrator evaluation system. We've done some support with Michelle Taylor. She's our board certified behavior analyst. So she does projects with our teachers on social emotional learning, behavioral components, classroom management, all of those pieces. Special education also funds part of her work with us. We also do for ELA, we use the Lucy Calkins reading and writing programs, K-8, and then we use phonics for K-2. And we have trainers come in each year, which has been wonderful. Lots of times districts will purchase a program, have some training at the beginning of that, and then teachers are on their own. So we do have 2 ELA trainers that come in and work with our teachers throughout the year, which is nice for a few days. We also have math training built in for our new illustrative math program for K-8. So that will happen throughout the year as well. We have Grace Patterson's going to teach an on-site UMaine class this coming year for teachers to take advantage of. Primarily focused middle school, but it's going to be open to upper elementary and high school teachers as well. And then we have also funds in there. I plan to do some training or some sessions for teachers after school to offer them in social emotional learning and behavioral classroom management and behavioral support this year. And then ELA and math coursework, we pay for some of that out of the Title II match. And then Title V, instructional materials and supplies. And you'll see in there that I listed a particular math book study that the middle school is going to be using. And then also the units of study has been updated. It's available for pre-order for K-2, not K-8 yet, but K-2. And so some of the funds there will help us to update our teachers' resources in those 2 areas. Yes.
Hey, so how many teachers total can partake in that class? And do you anticipate a large amount that would probably want to do it?
So we're just getting the word out. Grace this is her first class that she's
Yeah.
teaching. So we're looking, I believe, I don't know how many, I have to check with Evelyn. I believe she's had 5 that have signed up for that, but she can take, many. She's kind of hoping she'll get like 10 if possible. But yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
What's the incentive to do it? To take the class?
So they'll get credit. They'll get recertification credit for that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
No actions necessary. That's just. Yep, information.
I mean, you don't have to approve taking grants.
No, we don't have to approve taking federal grant.
Yeah, we did that vote, but we.
But you did have to vote, that's right. When you had to vote, you did vote to accept it.
Next, we have discussion and possible action to grant superintendent the authority to transfer fiscal 22 funds up to 5% between cost centers as needed.
This is an annual activity, and this is one of the quirks in the law, that we have to have approval to transfer funds before the end of the fiscal year. But we don't know exactly the amount till we finish up the fiscal year. So this is one of those government things. So
But it can only be up to 5%.
only up to 5% from a cost center into another cost center. We do know that the cost center that will have an overrun is going to be debt service this year. And it should be, my guess is around 20,000. And we can cover that from one of the other cost centers. But before any action becomes final, I'll report back to you. You'll take action on it. But this gives us a place marker. So when they do our audit in November, then they're going to say, oh, you didn't have authority to transfer those.
And just for clarification, 5% is calculated on what? 5% of a cost center, of the entire budget,
Of a cost center,
of a cost center.
the total of a cost center.
You have to do this every year.
Every year, yeah, it's pretty typical.
So-
You'll have, for whatever reason, you'll have one cost center and another run over. We've had times when we've had a lot of long-term subs that really blew our budget out, a lot that we'd have to transfer.
And as you may recall from finance, there is an issue in debt service. Because we used the incorrect schedule at one point, so we underfunded that debt service. We do actually need to pay our bills.
Yeah.
So I
That's a
encourage
good
us to allow this to happen.
It would really be a shame for that middle school to be repoed on the last payment.
Yeah, yeah. Gonna avoid that at all costs. Yeah, they're not gonna want to take it back, trust me.
Give them the Miles Lane. the boy was-
Scrap it.
I don't know.
Any other further discussion on this? We look for a motion.
Well, I move that we grant the superintendent the authority to transfer fiscal year 22 funds up to 5% between cost centers as needed.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have calendar and announcements.
So you gotta do reports from the administrators.
I
I know, I didn't put it in here again.
Well, that's his mistake. He just- Thank you.
Supposed to follow the script.
I know.
All right.
I keep forgetting to put that in there.
If there is any
He had an
administrator who would
excuse.
feel compelled to give us a report, they may certainly do so now. Kathy, would you like to?
Short, sweet.
I can't.
No, but do you want to? We asked if you wanted to.
That'll teach me to be late with my report.
Actually, big thing we'd really like is we're down to our 4 final choices for a hub logo. I did upload the family logos to the drive if you'd like to take a look. There's 7 adult eds that are trying to come up with a family logo to use for hub-wide projects. Since we're being pushed to use more and more of our funding grants, the AFTA grant, the College and Career Transitions grants, many of the federal grants will all be awarded to hub partner projects. Now we're trying to come up with something so that we can be a little more easily identified than hub number 1, because nobody knows where we are. The first round was not great. We sent them back to redo it totally. I could live with some of the logos that we had, but I would really love it. Maybe if you voted 1 to 4 for your top. 7 of us will be making a decision on the hubs. We do have to all agree, but I think we all sent the marketing company back. We were really unhappy with our first choices, I think, and we took 2 right out because it made us look like a kindergarten, to be very honest. Nothing wrong with kindergarten at all, but adults would not appreciate that. So after the retooling, I really could live with any of them if we had to. I have my favorite, so I'm not going to influence anyone, but it's right that no.
So if you want us to, if we look at them and we feel strongly, just email you
Yeah,
about
1
which
through
one we
4.
like.
Yeah, or if you just like 1 or 2, I mean, I think there's going to be some strong opinions. They're much better than the first round, but that's all I can say.
I thought you found a photo or an artist did something.
We did,
Years
and
ago.
the marketing company has, so the hub was given money from the state
Yeah,
to work as a hub to come up with these logos.
right.
And they did their version of that rendition.
It did not,
It was one of the ones I dropped. Let's just,
it didn't work out.
it did not work out.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It really didn't. They
You had
did come
good
up
hopes
with
for it.
something that I think did. They look much better in color. I would have printed them out, but they really do make a difference to see them in color. And the other is graduation, and I have to apologize, I did miss our one diploma graduate. We do have more diploma students than that. They are still working on it, and I do have to say the bar program and the academic excellence of the high school and all of the supporting schools has gotten to the point where they really dropped my diploma students down, and that's not a bad thing. We've seen, especially since the bar program came in, we have seen a drastic drop in students in our area that have needed diploma and high set. Most or a number of our students, a higher percent are students moving into the area or older adults that have not come back. So I think that's a really great thing. I'm not sure what it does for my job security. I keep going after Josh. But we're seeing a huge increase if you look at the college and career transitions awareness. These are folks that have already graduated, are already working out in the community and are fighting. I would say the majority of them are struggling with math and technology more than English. And they're getting out on the job and realizing they really don't have the skills. And these are not recent graduates, or their jobs are changing so fast, technologies come in, and they're looking for a crash course to keep their job or to promote out. Math is still beating technology by a lot, but not by much. And folks that have been on the job quite a while are coming in and going, look, I have to learn this and I've got to learn it now. And that's what we've been doing, keep people in their jobs. Get them to the next level. Maybe they've been in that entry level for a while and they realize they cannot move up without the math scores. CNA is moving up to medical assistants. There's a test and the employer gets it every year. And most of them cannot pass it without the math tutoring. And it goes to 8th grade level. But it's tough for many of them. We have to start right over at the bottom and work up.
It's funny you say that because years ago, I had a friend that was working in the mill and he was moving to another department. And he came to me and said, you know what? I had forgotten my times tables. And it's just because he didn't use it. And he had just forgotten it.
Metric system,
And yeah,
it's huge.
and I can see if someone doesn't use it.
And technology,
I definitely
just
see that.
HR systems at many of the healthcare facilities, everything's online. Like, why do I need a computer? Well, you're gonna have to read your HR policies, you're gonna have to chart online 3 times a day, they check.
And the reality is you're getting into like 15 different programs to do all kinds of different things because you do so much online. One program cannot house all this stuff.
And we keep hearing from facility employers that, if you give them the basic skills so they can turn it on without blowing up my computer, if they know how to move between windows, if they know what Windows is, and we actually, the North Star is it's a national certification that covers a wide range of products. But they will train them on the specialty, the charting programs and whatnot, if we can get them computer savvy. But they will not, you're gonna go right to the bottom of the list if your technical skills aren't there. Our students, I will say one of our students came back the other day, there were 300 people waiting in line for a job. How realistic, a lot of them were not trained, but they were hoping. And I think half of them went away. Then they asked who had, and they listed these skills we were teaching. There were 3 students left. One of them was ours. And they wound up getting the job. But it's gonna put you to the head of the class when you're looking at that stuff. That is the majority of our students for the last couple of years is the college and career awareness as adults who maybe didn't need it or didn't think ahead when they were getting out of high school and realize now they aren't going to get ahead if they don't come back and do something. We're seeing a lot of the math skills. you don't use it, you lose it. And times tables and whatnot, and so they may have graduated with very nice math scores, they're coming back and assessing it like grade 6. Pretty standard, most of our students assess at grade 6. That's where many of our students are right now. We did have 4 teen volunteers for graduation, and my older legs were very thankful. They did a fantastic job. They helped us from everything from proofreading, decorating, cleanup. And we were very, very happy to have them there helping us out. They did a fantastic job. And that's pretty much it. It seemed like we were really busy, but a lot of it was getting everybody finished up. We had a couple people, as usual, there the night before. Okay, I turned it in. Have you graded it yet? Because I really want to go to graduation. So, but it was a small graduation this year. The flu, I guess, or something is going through, and many of our students were requested to work. They got jobs and they were asked to work. So we had a very small group. We had 6 people with us.
That's a good reason to miss it though. You have to work.
It really is. We found students are being pulled right out as quick as they graduate. If they've done it and they've done reasonably well, which we went to an 80 for the certificate programs, and they have to have an 85 on their practice exams before we'll even let them touch certification. They aren't going to pass if they're not getting a minimum 85. It's just not. There's no sense in even letting them pass the class at the lower levels. They're not going to pass the certification if we don't. So we raised that to 85. Any questions?
I have one. Yes. The majority of the students returning test in at a 6th grade math level, and
Yes.
they're just random community members. And I mean,
They could be older. I mean, we see everybody from 22 to, I think my oldest student who was still working was 72. So they may have been out of school for a very long time, but most of them in their 20 and late 20s to mid 40s.
you'd say that it's like, what, like a 90% of the time?
Yes.
Right.
But
Just to be fair, like, in 8th grade is now considered pre-calculus, right?
it.
No, I'm sorry,
I
pre-algebra,
know where
pre-algebra, I said the wrong. word.
Pre-algebra and it was.
Pre-calculus is like 11th grade.
And so those of us who graduated a few years ago, you may never have gotten algebra until maybe your junior, senior year. But the biggest thing out of all of it is not really the calculations, it's a lot of it is the metrics.
What do you mean, like the metric system?
Yes. The metric system is huge and they really struggle. It's just not, and it's everywhere in healthcare.
And it's
It wasn't
so
taught for
easy if
so
you know
long.
it.
Just
Here in the
stay with
States.
zero.
Normally, we don't use it unless you're in the healthcare.
But you
I
use
don't
it
use it
all the
all the
time if you're in healthcare, and it's
Healthcare, yeah.
so easy to use.
Tens.
But I was also taught it in school. I don't know.
Right, but don't
We were
automotive
supposed to.
technicians use millimeters and things like that? Don't they use
Wasn't
metric
taken
systems?
seriously.
It depends on the vehicle.
Depends on the vehicle.
And
Yeah.
scientists
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah, I mean, like, that seems.
We used to, I think that's where we learned it, was in science. But
It's an interesting thing to think about, though. Thank you.
And the digital literacy is second amongst everything else.
And that's tough because everything changes so
Yeah,
fast.
it does.
And I suspect a little bit, and we've kind of talked about that, but I think going into the positions in healthcare that we're talking about, they're caregivers, they're people. They're not necessarily someone who thought they would be spending a lot of time on a computer.
Right.
And the reality, I think, is that those jobs have become highly computerized. Just, I don't know if you have a percentage of what you think.
Well, today I saw 0 patients and I did about 185 phone calls to patients and documenting on a computer. And I'm a nurse.
And every last bit of that was using the computer, tracking, making notes, typing.
Yeah,
Moving from one program to
Organizing
another.
and-
making
Without
spreadsheets.
losing the- without
Triaging.
losing it.
yep. And it's essential. I mean, if my computer goes down, I cannot do any of that.
Yeah.
I have no idea what patients I need to call.
And I think
and-
that's the big difference moving even from a CNA to an MA is the computer work, I think. And it's even coming into the CNA.
And even like tomorrow, I know I have one patient appointment, but then I have all the charting from that. So I get a little bit of a touch with patient and then a lot of charting afterwards.
You have any other questions for Karen? Thank you very much. You like
Be sure about.
to present?
Sure.
Okay, head on up.
So I just want to say that we wrapped up the end of the year at Miles Lane and Jewett with some great activities. Our students got to get out to the community quite a bit. We did a lot of field trips to Acadia National Park, the planetarium. Where else did we go? Right here. They went everywhere. I think there's a field trip every other day in that building. You know, it's hard to keep track. So we went to Acadia National Park, the Maine Discovery Museum, the planetarium. We did a tour of one of the grades did a tour of the movie theater down here. And the Buck Memorial Library has been an incredible community partner for us. And they've invited a lot of our classrooms into the library this year. And I think they signed them up for library cards. And then, as a result of that, we had a lot of volunteer training. So between Christina and I, we trained every single morning. I think we had parents come in and we did the volunteer training. So we have a lot of parents on board who attended the field trips, who helped out with our field day. We had field day for kindergarten and pre-K, and we had field day at MLS, and that was incredible. And a lot of parents and families who helped out with that. Our fourth grade assembly was a huge hit this year, and we were a little bit worried because we haven't done this in a couple of years. And so we were worried about the kids, and we invited all the whole student body into the gym. We had 127 fourth grade families who attended, and the kids were absolutely incredible and very attentive. It probably helps that the Masons had donated bikes, and we had about 16 bikes set up in the back of the gym the whole time. And Christina and I drew names for those. The kids had to read a certain number of books, and then their name went into a drawing. So that was great fun. And with our Step Up Day, Aspire was a great partner in that as well. And our kindergartners received, they got to meet Bucky, the real life Bucky mascot. And they got a little Bucky stuffy with, that had a t-shirt that said 2034 on the back, which is really neat. So it was fun. And our summer school program is all organized and ready to go. We have 4 teachers who are going to be running the program, and they've got that all planned. And we have the YMCA as a partner in that process. So we have 21 kids right now signed up for it and ready to go. And about 19 of the 21 are going to be attending the YMCA summer camp as well. And that's all I have.
Oh my God, that's their graduation year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I think the olds are good.
I don't wanna.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to say, I still remember when the sign out front of the Jewett School said, "Welcome class of 2020."
Oh, I know, I remember that.
So that was a while back.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I do want to say that Sam Foster absolutely loved talking in that assembly. He said he had so much fun. He did a lot of announcing of some sort.
He is a natural.
Can you
With the
believe he
videos
likes to
and
talk? Weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah, I don't know who he makes that.
So strange.
Wait until you meet Maria Koff. Oh, wait, Jeff.
Yes, she
That's
was
right.
here with her, that's right.
One of the gamble.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Or have you already told us enough?
Well, I told you quite a bit. You saw me, Tom. No, I want to just add to that, I have been working really closely with Evelyn over the past month, so kind of trying to step out of my role and give that to Darcy and step into my new role. So I have been going to, I participated in PrEP and DEEP, and so PrEP, the Penobscot River Partnership, and DEEP, the Down East Educational Partnership. So I did those with Evelyn this month. The ESEA coordinator updates, I'm going to participate in training modules for that next week. It's been very busy in the curriculum world, so it's been great. It's exciting for me. I'm also supporting both the REV grants, the BMS and the BHS REV grants, and working with those two principals, Todd and Josh, on getting those pieces up and going. That's what I'm doing.
Any questions for Christina?
Thank you.
I'm the only one left.
I won't take too much time, but I do want to share a few things with you. So to round out the year, we do a survey that is sent to an outside evaluator for 12th graders and all district employees. So we obviously don't have all those results back yet, but in the process of doing that, we wanted to take the opportunity to ask some extra questions at the local level to get a little more personalized feedback. So we've had a chance to start to review those. And we also decided we wanted to share with staff the things that have happened in the past 12 months to kind of give them a sense of, oh yeah, maybe you were part of this, or do you want to speak to that? Or did you think we should have done this? Or and to help them to know what happened in buildings that they don't work in, that they might not have heard about. So I have some copies of the list that we shared with them. So I'm going to share those with you, and you'll have that for reference. And in addition to that, we do an 8th grade survey. That one is not evaluated by the external evaluator, but we also felt it was important to get a sense on student feedback post middle school experience to be able to help inform the work there and to help inform the work for those students going forward into the high school. So we'll take a look at that data, as well as both middle and high school this year did the Gallup poll again. So that also gives us some data, and we will look at all that to set next year's goals. And we ended the school year last Thursday with Christina and Evelyn, and teachers from each building got together to start the process of doing the alignment to the new state standards for life and career readiness. So I let them know that it was kind of a coincidence that the life and career standards were released at the same time that the district secured the Aspire funds, but it wasn't a coincidence that Aspire came here. So we talked about how there were a lot of things in place and supports here, and the experience with the Melmac team, the years of success they had, the 2 JMG positions already in district, and so lots to build on. So we were able to get together with teachers who admittedly were not too excited to be with us the day after the last day of school. But by the end of the day, they left and they said they were excited and energized about the possibilities for next year. They want to meet again. So it was really positive to get teacher feedback from all buildings this spring in how they're already addressing the life and career standards. And then we'll use that information to help identify areas that, working with Christina, that makes sense to spend some of Jordan and I's time in the year to come. So we're really excited about that work. And really excited that the teachers really were taking some ownership and wanting to be part of it, and they were excited. So that was really great. And then, let's see, this Thursday, we are hosting, I guess it's up to 30. The food count I gave you was correct. We're 35 now.
Yeah.
People. So Aspire Gorham is coming and Aspire Skowhegan is coming here to convene at the middle school to share best practices from Gorham. Aspire Skowhegan is just starting. They have one person hired. They have their career person hired, so Jordan's role. They don't have a gen yet, so both sites have a gen. So they still need to find that person. And it's gonna be a really great chance for everyone to get together, and we're gonna meet in breakout sessions with each job title. So the superintendents are all in a room, the building principals are all in a room. The middle school, I'm sorry, the middle school's in a room, the elementary school's in a room, the high school's in a room to have shared conversations at the principal level. And then we're gonna come back together, share some more information, and then we're gonna split out into our district breakout sessions and have a chance to talk with our local folks. So it's a nice agenda for the day. We're looking forward to it. And this is all happening because the superintendent Gorham has been waiting for 2 years now to come up here and get fed by Mr. Boothby. So.
Ooh, it's got a reputation.
Got quite a reputation, so.
So we've just been helping coordinate that. So we're looking forward to that. And then we'll start thinking more about next year. So I will pass these around so you'll have these reviewed. And some of you might remember this one from last year. This is something we gave out at the end of last year, but we made it bigger and had them printed at the print shop this time. So this is our to-do list, which we kind of kicked off this summer with to encourage kids to learn about their community and look at careers in town and different resources in the 4 communities during their summer break. So we'll run a contest again. Foster's participated in that last year.
They'll be looking for it.
For kids to try 5 new things on the list this summer. We'll enter them into a drawing. We were able to give away these to each Miles Lane student, as well as a book to each Miles Lane student to take home for summer reading. And each middle school student also went home with a book. The middle school we picked, there were 4 biographies and the students had the option to choose which one. They were all of teenagers who've done pretty amazing things. So what's going on? Always. Questions? I brought extra to-do lists. If anybody wants one, I'll have them on the table.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Mr. Boothby, if you could not take one of those, that'd be great.
I'd be happy not to take one. Oh, I totally-
Treat you like family.
So then that brings us to calendar and announcements. The curriculum committee, July 14th, 6 o'clock, central office.
And there is a remote option as well.
Policy committee is July 12th, 5:30, central office. Finance committee, July 19th, 5:30, right here. School board, July 19th, 6 o'clock, right here. Facilities, to be determined.
To be determined. As soon as we get the information, I'll be contacted.
Spire is also to be determined.
Correct.
Any other calendar announcements? that we need to Say, or is that all we got?
All I have right now.
All right, that moves us to our favorite time of the meeting, where we get to adjourn.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I still see on the roll call, though, I'm still not on the list.
You're on the one, go on.
I'm just looking at, maybe we're.
And we're not gonna really have a roll call vote anyway, so I don't know why that's even.
It makes you feel any
I'm just
better.
looking
I'm
at
not- You're not on it either.
Yeah. I think we can just call that from the agenda.
So
now.
Mike
We don't have
Lyons,
roll
yes.
call.
We don't have roll call.
Yeah, so.
The
we
only
can-
time you need to do roll call is if you have somebody who is remote.
Okay,
Exactly.
all right.
So I move that we,
Dan,
okay, we got a motion. We need a second.
second.
We got a second. All those in favor? And that is unanimous.